This is Dust Off 163. I have a good copy. We'll be leaving Coochie at this time for the mission. 1-4 Golf, this is Dust Off 163. I'd like your tactical situation and route of approach into your area, please. We're over your area at this time.
Been receiving contact to our east, over.
Just over a week ago, the American Secretary of State said from Washington, the indiscriminate shelling of Saigon will not succeed in putting any extra pressure on us in the Paris negotiations. The problem now is to give sufficient numbers of the South Vietnamese enough time and experience for them to operate effectively on their own. And the current theory is that they should be able to take over some of the more vital combat roles from the Americans in a matter of months. Some humorist in the American High Command had codenamed it Twinkletoes, a search and destroy operation in the jungle 40 miles north of Saigon.
Oh, wow, fish.
This is the third shelling attack on Saigon in the past 7 days and the 70th throughout South Vietnam in this present long drawn-out offensive. This shell came in at 5 o'clock this morning, demolished 4 houses, killing 10 people. 14 people are still missing, including 7 children. This house belongs to Mr. Tran Van Duyn, a 34-year-old electrical engineer. It was his first home. He owned it and bought it less than 2 months ago. Today, he has lost a son, and his wife lies critically wounded in hospital. Next door took the direct hit. A man and a wife and their 6 children died instantly. This is the propelling end of the 122mm Russian-built rocket that fell here 2 hours ago. It was probably fired less than 3 miles away from the center of Saigon, the firing equipment being brought up the river by sampan. This irregular shelling of Saigon and other centers in South Vietnam in the past 10 days follows no pattern. Sometimes the attacks come during the day, but most times during the night when the firing locations are harder to spot. No one is prepared to guess why the Viet Cong are shelling in this way. It can't be to impress the negotiators in Paris. It would surely take a more spectacular show of force to do that. What it could be is the communists' way of saying to the South Vietnamese, despite 500,000 American troops, despite the massive build-up of American arms and air strength, you are not safe. We can shell you when we like and where we like. And having been close to these shellings in the past week, I can vouch that it's very effective propaganda. American military intelligence still insists that the communists do not mean to launch another offensive on Saigon. They say it would stretch the communist line of communication impossibly and might tempt President Nixon to renew the bombing attacks in the north. But the same military intelligence admits that there are within 40 miles of Saigon 4 well-equipped, heavily armed North Vietnamese army units, totaling between 40 and 50,000 men. That fact and these shellings must mean another offensive is near. The question is, where will it come and when? This is Michael Nicholson, News at 10, Saigon.
Spotter 3-6, this is Alpha 3-6, Roger. From our present location, we've found another possible pickup zone, over. Great.
Patrols like these in the Mekong Delta are convinced that they're winning their war against the VC. They put as success there, as evidence of their success, the number of VC dead and the number of VC defectors. But they have, nevertheless, the substantial backing of thousands of well-armed and well-trained troops, plus barrack ships, helicopters and gunships, and the River Marine Force, to contain and destroy what amounts to scattered handfuls of Viet Cong in these parts. In Saigon, the traditional white dress of mourners has now become a familiar daily sight. Just over a week ago, the American Secretary of State, William Rogers, said from Washington, "The indiscriminate shelling of Saigon will not succeed in putting any extra pressure on us in the Paris negotiations." These attacks are a reminder of the callous attitude with which the enemy regards the innocents of the Vietnam War. Today, despite all subsequent warnings, the shellings go on and the innocents continue to die. These are the Ong Du Tre Con, the Vietnamese for pipe children who live in the discarded sewage pipes in the Saigon suburb of Cho Lon. They once lived near Ben Hoa, but their homes and entire village has been destroyed. On the 3rd of March, a communist 122mm rocket fell within 10 yards of a children's hospital in Saigon. And that same morning, school children played football with a metal casing they'd found in their playground. It was a Viet Cong mine. It exploded, and this child lost a leg. 13 other children were severely wounded, and they were brought to this children's hospital in Saigon, staffed by a British pediatric team of doctors and nurses, sponsored by the British government.
He was involved in warlike activities about 30 kilometers from Saigon, was brought in here with bullet wounds of the abdominal cavity. He's had injuries to the bowel, injuries to the bladder, and this girl has been in for about a month. She comes from a village on the main road down to the Delta, and she stepped on a mine, has lost one leg. The other was wounded, but she's going to keep it.
These stories are by no means unique, and they cannot expect to compete for international attention with the high military death toll on the battlefields. But they are nevertheless part of this war, a war increasingly being directed against civilians in and around the towns and cities of South Vietnam. This is Michael Nicholson, News at 10, Saigon. Some humorist in the American High Command had codenamed it Twinkletoes, a search and destroy operation in the jungle bordering the San Bay River, 40 miles north of Saigon. The noise of the tanks aside, the communists were already aware that the Americans knew of their base camps here. For the past 3 nights, B-52 bombers flying in from Okinawa had made 9 saturation bombing runs over the 25 square mile area. The blast could be heard in Saigon. On Friday the 14th of March, the morning after the last bombs had dropped, 3 companies of M48 tanks, 36 armored troop carriers, 300 infantrymen, flamethrower units, all from the 11th Armored Cavalry, moved off in 3 separate columns, coded Mike, Hotel, and Delta. Colonel George Patton, son of World War II General Patton, controlled the operation 100 feet up, directing his tank commanders from a spotter helicopter to areas where communists had been sighted. 4 Cobra helicopter gunships armed with rockets accompanied him. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, as it began to rain slightly, some North Vietnamese had been seen running to a bunker 3 miles west of us.
Don't forget there were goats in there.
Delta Company was the nearest, and Colonel Patton gave the order to search and destroy. Sometime later, the tanks we were with were ordered to move in as a backup force. 16 communists, including 3 young women identified as North Vietnamese soldiers, were dead. Although they had survived the B-52 bombings, the craters 15 feet deep were only 10 yards away from them. They had attempted to fight their way out of the bunkers and through the tank cordon with rifles.
Set up right in this area, knowing that there were at least 2 people in this particular bunker.
Yeah.
And we tried to get them to come out using our interpreters and got no reaction. Thought they might have been dead because we had thrown grenades and stuff in there. Finally had an American trooper go in and was shot. As a matter of fact, I heard this morning that he did die trying to get them out. We then started throwing in the high explosive grenades and this sort of thing. Again, thinking we had them dead, started to dig them out, and about 10 o'clock last night, 2 of them came out throwing grenades and firing weapons. And of course,
all that?
After any human being you'd think had been killed, but the bunker was deeper and had more levels to it than we thought.
The documents taken from the bodies established them as a small reconnaissance company. They'd been relaying information of American troop movements back to their headquarters of the main force division, camped close to the Cambodian border, 35 miles away. They'd lived on rice, lemons, and tinned fish.
Oh, wow, fish.
This document came from the body of a 20-year-old corporal, recently promoted, it read, after 5 years' service in the North Vietnamese Army. Another document we were not allowed to film gave detailed and we were told quite accurate locations of American military installations. This was the first, and as it turned out, the only contact with the North Vietnamese in the entire 3 days and 2 nights of the operation. This was perhaps not surprising. From the outset, it was doubtful whether such a large, slow, and unwieldy armored convoy in this kind of jungle could accomplish much more than a routine clearing up, blowing the few bunkers left untouched by the bombers. And with the one exception, the communists had evacuated every bunker long before the tanks arrived. This is Mike Nicholson, News at 10, Sang Bay River, South Vietnam. The problem now is to give sufficient numbers of the South Vietnamese enough time and experience for them to operate effectively on their own. Time for the Americans to teach them the more advanced techniques of war. By the end of this year, the South Vietnamese will have around 1 million men in their armed forces, both regular and volunteer. And the current theory is that they should be able to take over some of the more vital combat roles from the Americans in a matter of months. In the battle areas, they are becoming more successful, though this might be due to other factors, namely that the communists are certainly weaker now than they've ever been. And the nightly saturation bombings by American B-52 bombers
depletes the communist ranks long before they get to the South Vietnamese held areas. Without question, the South Vietnamese are better equipped now, supplied with the same arms as the American forces. A Vietnamese officer commands men entirely trained, armed, fed and clothed by Americans, and is advised by a full-time American of equal rank. It has already been described as a condition of total dependence. The handover to the South Vietnamese of American arms and specialized equipment is substantial, if not well advertised. The Air Force now has 36 pilots trained in the United States to fly the first jet fighter squadron of American F-5s. Their present missions are confined to communist ground positions around Saigon. But soon they take delivery of the newer A-37 jets, which will give them the range to fly north as far as Hanoi. In February, the South Vietnamese Navy were given 25 river patrol boats, 10 gunships, and 12 landing craft for river marine patrols in the Mekong Delta. Total cost to the Americans was around $16 million. This is Michael Nicholson, News at 10, Saigon.
Coochie dust off 163, Fox Wing check.
63, this is Coochie, roger, mission follows. Coordinates, X-ray Tango, 576265, urgent.
Coochie dust off, this is dust off 163, I have a good copy. We'll be leaving Coochie at this time for the mission. 1-4 Golf, this is dust off 163. I'd like your tactical situation and route of approach in your area, please. We're over your area at this time.
Been receiving contact to our east, over.
Roger, understand. The contact is to the village to the east. Okay, we'll be coming in from the west behind your tracks. Okay, going down.
Okay, good buddy. What's your last name?
Asbroth.
Spell it.
A-S-B-R-O-T-H.
First name?
Stephen. S-T-E-V.
Rank?
Sergeant.